walk around. You're gonna close your door, put your seatbelt on, the bus on and running, right? So you're gonna turn it on if it's not on already. Okay, you're gonna look at your gauges, see if they're done building or not. First thing you're gonna do is your governor cut in. My governor must cut in no less than 85 psi. If it doesn't cut in by 85 psi, it means either my governor or my compressor are out of adjustment or not working. Let me turn these off so that way you can hear me better. Is that better? Okay. So needles are stable, so I'm going to go ahead and start my governor cut in. So I'm going to press firmly on my brake pedal and hold for a few seconds. Okay, I'm going to let off. I'm going to give it some throttle and watch the needles here to see when they start moving. And they're not moving. So I'm going to go ahead and do it again. Same thing. Press firmly on my brake, service brake pedal. Let off. Give it some more throttle here. And they're moving up. Can you see that? So my cut in was about 100 psi. Okay. Now I'm going to do my governor cut out, which has to happen no more than 130 psi. If it goes above 130, at 150, my safety pop-off valve will release, salvaging the lines from rupturing. Okay. And I heard the noise, but I'm going to make sure that my needles are not moving, which they're not. So my cut out was about 125, between 120 and about 122 actually. So that's a good test. Next, I'm going to do my static test. I'm going to turn the bus off, put the key on accessory. Okay. I'm looking at my needles. I can't lose no more than 2 psi in 1 minute, and my time starts now. If I were to lose 10, 20, 15, 30, it doesn't matter any more than, any psi. It means that I have a leak in my supply side of the system. So if I do have a leak on my supply side, it could be leaking primarily from either my supply lines, my tanks, or my drain valves. Okay. Just waiting for my minute to be up. Alright, time is up. Now I'm going to do my apply test. I'm going to push on my service brake pedal and release my parking brake. Watching my needles to make sure that they're stable and not moving. And my time starts now. I can't lose no more than 3 psi in 1 minute for my apply test. So when I pressed on my service brake pedal, I'm sending air to my front and rear chambers. 2 in the front, 2 in the rear, so 4 with air. When I released my parking brake, I'm sending air to my spring brake chambers, which there's 2 in the rear, so a total of 6 chambers have air. I only have 4 brakes on my bus. I have my front and my rear, and my springs apply the rear, so that's why I have 6 chambers but only 4 brakes, because the rear spring and rear primary chambers share the same brake. Okay. And my time is up. Okay, didn't lose any air, so that was a good test. Now I'm going to go ahead and start my splitting of the tanks and checking for my low air warning and my double check valve to make sure they're working properly. I'm going to go ahead and drain my front tank, secondary tank first. So it's right here. Okay, I'm making sure that only one needle is moving and the other needle is stable, indicating that my double check valve is working properly. My double check valve is located between the primary and secondary tank, and how it works, the function is, if I have a leak on one side, it's going to seal that bad tank off and protect the good tank from leaking. I'm looking for my low air warning to be audio and visual. no less than 60 psi. So stays on about 65. So that's good. I'm going to drain it all the way down to 0. Once I drain it all the way down to 0, I'm going to go ahead and start the bus, put it in drive, and move forward. And I'm going to be checking that I have rear brakes. Since I drained my front tank, I'll have rear brakes, 2 chambers stopping this bus. So I'm always making sure my seatbelt's on, lights are on, and door is closed before this bus is in motion, right? Okay, almost done. All right, my air is stopped. My foot's on the brake. Starting the bus, putting it in drive, making sure it's 5 and 1. Releasing the parking brake. Do my mirrors as I pull forward and stop the bus. So the bus stops. Parking brake neutral. Okay. Now I'm going to rev it up to high idle. There we go. All right, sorry. And I'm going to go ahead and make sure that my needles move back up to a minimum of 100 psi of both tanks. Once I build it all the way up to 100, I'm going to go ahead and turn the bus off and turn it back on accessory, and I'm going to be draining my rear tank this time. And I'm going to be checking my emergency stopping system. Since I know that I can never stop with just front brakes, and I'm draining my rear tank, that's why it's the true emergency stopping system, because I have to have rear brakes. So once I drain it, I'll be checking to make sure that I have both front and rear brakes. My spring brake actually applying the rear brakes. So I'll have 4 stopping the bus. Alright, so minimum of 100, turning off my high idle. Okay, turning off my bus. Okay, putting it on accessory. Okay, now I'm going to be draining my rear tank, which is my primary. Okay, checking to make sure only one needle is moving, which it is, meaning that my double check valve is working properly. I'm also going to be looking for my low air warning device to activate no less than 60 psi, and it has to be audio and visual. Okay. So it didn't stay on when I let go of it, so I'm going to wait a second. So it's audio and visual at 65 psi, excuse me. Now I'm going to drain it all the way down to 0.
Did we talk about the service? Like what happens when we put the foot on the brake and what happens to the air?
With the air. When we did the apply test,
Did we
I did that.
Oh, okay.
But if you have a leak in your apply test, it would be coming from your chambers, service lines, or your actual diaphragm. So I didn't say that. But if she does, if you need to know that, then that's where the 3 most likely places it would be leaking in your apply test.
Okay.
Primarily, she just wants to know where you send the air when you press on your foot brake, service brake pedal, and when you release the parking brake. How many chambers you have, how many brakes you have, and why. and that you can't lose no more than 3 psi in 1 minute. And if you do, obviously you have a leak and you have a problem, and your bus is placed out of service, right?
Right. Yes.
Okay, so air is almost done draining. I can hear just a little bit more. All right, it's done now. Drive, releasing, 4. And I heard the air expelling out of the spring brake chamber.
Yes.
My parking brake
Me
neutral. So I knew that all 4 brakes were applied to stop this bus because the air was expelling out of my spring brake chamber.
Okay. Makes sense.
I'm going to build it back up to a minimum of 100 psi. Once it's up to 100, I'm going to do 2 surface brake stops and 1 spring brake stop, making sure the bus is not leaning or pulling and that all the brakes are functioning properly. Man, that's loud. Thank you.
Well, that back door is really loud. The emergency.
Emergency exit. It's at 90. So you definitely could hear that air that time, right?
Mm-hmm.
I really pushed it hard so I get all that air to come out.
Okay.
But that's how you know that your front brakes aren't just being applied, that you can hear the air expelling out of that spring brake chamber, allowing that spring to expand and it's applying the rear brakes.
Okay.
In place of the air, right? Since we don't have air in the rear. But we still have 4 brakes, 4 chambers being applied to stop this bus safely. Alright, so now it's at a minimum of 100, actually cut out at 120, right? But that's okay. So I'm going to put my foot on the brake, put it in drive, release the parking brake, check to make sure it's clear. Okay. 1 service brake, 2 service brake stops, and 1 parking brake stop. Okay, neutral, bus off, lights off. All right, and that completes my air brake check.
Yay!